And we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this episode of the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn Live show. I'm so excited today to kind of go in a different direction and explore some things that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And my guests today are John and Melanie Haigwood with Haigwood Studios. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Fabulous. Thank you. And you?
I'm doing great, and I'm so glad you're here. And if you're watching live on LinkedIn, please post in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. And if you have questions for John and Melanie, we really want to talk about it. Today's topic is this idea of telling a compelling story through video and photography. And I got to know Haigwood Studios because I was sent to them several years ago for a headshot. I had never had headshots before. And it was the best experience that I could even imagine. I still use some of those headshots today. And not only that, a few years ago when I needed a new set, I went to Haigwood. Matter of fact, those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, if you looked at my LinkedIn photo, John took that picture. That's one of his headshots. But one of the things when I was interested, John, I was looking at your information. I was thinking about you, about coming on the show, and I realized that you do a ton of work in the space of in medical device, medical practices, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So my audience is healthcare leaders all over the country. So tell us a little bit about that work, and you sent us some examples. We're going to get into it. Thank you for being on the show. Introduce yourself a little bit more. I probably didn't give you the best introduction.
Well, no, just been doing it since 1988. That's how long I've been a photographer, and that's when the business started. So I've actually photographed even longer than that. The biggest thing is when I see how important medical photography is. If you don't have very good stuff, your product it looks scary compared to the other customers. Sorry. So the biggest thing is make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's by having good stuff, because people will think that they are, if you have a competitor and they have better stuff, they're going to go with that competitor just because the photography looks better. Everybody wants to know where Circuit City went. Best Buy came in and made their brand look better than Circuit City. They both sold the same stuff, but now Circuit City is nowhere to be found because they weren't caring about their brand, the way they look. And so that's the biggest thing I have to say is that being in this business so long, if you don't bring it to a very high end, just don't be a photographer.
That's awesome. That's all. I love that. You set that bar so high. And you shared with me that you were the first of the professional photographers to really get into the digital space.
I was.
And I know that we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I love this idea, what you just talked about. And by the way, Marlene Siden's checked in. She's checking in from Roswell. She's a fan of your studio.
Marlene's got one of our pictures.
We love your headshot.
There you go. There she is. Marlene's a friend of mine.
We can spot our work anywhere.
It's fantastic.
Lots of little details that I see, and Melanie even sees. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's Marlene is someone I've known for a long time. And by the way, if you're watching live, please let us know in the comments. But one of the things you just talked about, in the healthcare world that I work in, building trust with the patients, building trust with the consumer, because now consumers can make a decision where they're going to go, right? There's not one doctor in town. There's hundreds of doctors in town that do a particular process, or building trust. Talk a little bit more about how you work with the customer to present that quality image to build trust. And then we're going to look at examples of some of the work you're doing in the med device, but talk about how you work with let's say a physician comes to you and they're like, hey, I've got my practice. I want to share our story. What's some of the steps that you take with them to help them share that story?
There's nothing better than a client showing us what they like, because anything that I see, I know that I can improve on when they show us something. And if you can improve on what they like, you reach the stars with them. So it's one of those things that, Melanie is the go between that makes everybody happy, because she'll get with you on emails even at midnight if she's up. There's never a time that we don't work for the studio.
It's our baby. The studio's our baby. So we try to tend to it. And Marion, one of the things you were talking about the competition really in healthcare. I know for Piedmont Orthopedics, Ortho Atlanta, John started off years ago doing their headshots. And they came to us and said, we need a video bio of each one of our orthopedic surgeons, because they're competing for patients just like any business.
Absolutely.
And patients like to click that little thing. And that's how I chose my surgeon, was looking at the video bio and getting to know a little bit about them. So that's been a fun thing. We've done, I think we're halfway through that project of filming the bios for those surgeons. And it's just been so great to get to know their compassion and their passion too for their patients. And then we hope it comes across in the video. John makes them look really good.
Yeah, we come in with we have to actually do it kind of after work. And that's the hardest part for them, because they've already put in a long day and they're ready to get out. But, we set up, around 3:00, and it takes a while to set our lighting up. And we really, when you look at the videos, they're just really over the top, everybody says, and it makes the business again look better than the competitors. I mean, the competitors aren't doing this.
You sent me by the way, you sent me a reel of a playlist on your YouTube channel of all your medical videos. I will post those in the chat for the viewers to watch after the show. Melanie, I want to come back to this because I think this is a really important part of telling a compelling story, and I love we went down this path. One of the things that I experienced, John, when I came to you guys, I got sent there by the company I was doing some work for a headshot for their website. That was why I met you to begin with in Roswell, and I was based in Alpharetta. And I had to admit, I was incredibly nervous about the experience, because even though I'd been in business for a very, very long time, and we've talked that I'd do some performing outside of work, I had never done anything with a professional headshot group. I had no clue what to expect. I had zero clue what to expect. And one of the things that I came away from was how comforting, or not comforting, how welcoming you were, and how you took the edge. Your whole team just took the edge off right away.
We like that.
And that's the number one thing that everybody says. Everybody says it's just always,
because it is nerve-wracking. You're coming in and nobody's really fond of this experience, so we try to make it as fun as we can. And I'm sure you heard John during your headshot. He's like, "Giggle with me."
Yeah, well, the biggest thing, I always feel like a dentist when they first walk in, because they've been scared overnight and just going, oh. And then all of a sudden, it was nothing what I thought it would be. And we
love that.
Well, that's the number one thing. If you can't make somebody comfortable, they're going to be awkward photos. It's something I got rid of. When I first started, I've just always been able to do that for people.
And that's interesting. So tell me, Melanie, a little bit, and both of you, how do you, when these gentlemen or women and ladies, these surgeons, these physician practitioners, all these people, they're high performing. Their expectations are very high of their work. Patients are expecting them to do great work, right? And that type of thing. I'd be curious, what are some of the things that you do to help them feel comfortable, so that you see the best side of them when you do the videos, you do the pictures? What are some of the, and I think
the biggest thing is you really need to let them see the image immediately, so they can just calm down. As soon as they see the first image, they relax and they go, oh, yeah, this is good, and it can only get better from there once they start to see what they can do and what I can do. The two of us work together. I'm able to spot the little things that. What I say is I've taken more than 25,000 headshots in here in Atlanta, and so I'm looking at things that if I get them in the same position that the majority of people love, then the picture is going to turn out great and they're going to be super happy. There's always people that they've seen other shots and they go, oh, try that one, and then I show them and they go, oh, your position's way better than that one. It's pretty funny is that I do have people that want to cook the cake with me, bake the cake with me.
Yeah. But I do think that's right. Like we just sent out some headshot tips, and I think hopefully from the first call they have with the studio, we try to make it seem like it's gonna all be okay. And then when John comes in, he's so approachable, and you can be super honest with John and say, I hate it.
That's
I love
right.
it.
Yeah.
I want to try something else. He'll work with you.
I don't want anybody to beat around the bush with me. Nobody has time for that. And they're trying to be nice. Just be brutal like I am all the time.
Good. But even with the, we were at WSB TV last week, and even with their anchors, that felt so good because they're photographed all the time, and
they have their own photographer. They have their own photographers, and they have to come up with a budget just for us.
Yeah.
And, they just, the poor anchors cry for me to come over there because I mean, they were, after one day of it, George shows Melanie the text from his partner and goes, that is the best picture you've ever taken. And George is, 50 something years old.
He doesn't look, he looks amazing.
He's been with the partner for 18 years, so it was like, wow. And, and another story was somebody that never smiled her whole life. She's 55 years old, never put a smile, and I talked her into it because I go, well, we throw those away if you don't want to smile. And what she found out, and I tried telling her, I go, if you smile, you end up being younger, because as we're older, we just if you don't smile. When you smile, it pulls it all up and makes your own facelift. And so she smiled. She goes, oh my goodness, that is so much better than I've ever had. And here it is, 55 years old, and she's super excited.
Finally smiling.
Yeah.
One of the things you shared with me with companies that they actually send their equipment and come in to your studio, and you sent me some examples. This one particular example, I'd love for you to talk us through how this takes place. So here's the photo that you share with me. Let me take the banner off so we can see the photo better.
Yeah, the company is in Canada, and they saw our medical photos that we build sets. This is a set we just built for them, and we have cabinets that are here, and we'll just put those cabinets up on the wall and put some monitors, and they brought their stuff in, and the way we light it, it makes it, it's not done with Photoshop, because you can see the other shots that created this.
Yeah, I'm going to show that. And so did they send, is that the people in the video, is that their team? Is that?
Yeah, that's their team. The team comes down.
That's their team. Sometimes we'll get on talent, and we have our own models that we've curated through the years.
I think this was
their team, though. I believe. Yeah.
I think maybe one
was their team, and one was ours. But then they'll come, and then we build the set that takes however long, and then we rent some of the additional props from local places here in Atlanta, and then they bring their brand as well. Like next week we're doing Medtronic, and we thankfully have a big garage opening here at the studio, because they're bringing a
750 pound
crates, and for something for their endoscopy equipment. And so we'll be doing a 3-day shoot for that next week. So we'll be, doing the set, and then they'll have the equipment come in, and then they'll have a team member come to put the equipment together.
That's
Yeah, after
fantastic.
Medtronic got to see what we did with video, they are throwing more and more stuff to update their look, because they didn't have when it comes to training videos, people just don't put that much into them, and we make them look so much better than a normal, and people don't mind watching it because it's more impressive than just a camera sitting there. We shoot with 3 cameras and lots of cutting and editing, so it's really a high-end piece.
And the last
So-
one was like
Right.
needles, and it was like
Yeah.
all the names look the same to us, but they're super specific. So I think it was like 2 days of video and photography for these teeny tiny needles.
That's crazy. And but that attention to detail, back to our earlier topic about telling that compelling story, that attention to detail is what matters. And I love that. So here's the shot on the screen that we were just talking about. But here's I love the fact that you're allowing me to pull back the curtain and let them see behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
John and Melanie. So here's what the shot looks like on the Apple computer there in the
for the
studio.
client to actually see. You can actually see a whole bunch of the other ones lining up, so you're constantly, tweaking as you go. And the best part is the client can see these, and then, you want to be able to do things fast and good, and those two don't go together. But at this studio, people see that we can get both, and because detail, you can put a lot more detail in these photos to get even better pictures. That's the hard part.
The lighting on this photo, when you sent this to me and I was looking at it, I was like, amazing. But this is the best part. This is the best picture you sent me related. Here is the whole situation. So explain what we're looking at here.
And that's totally behind the curtain, because right now you can see the computer screen has the finished shot over there, but a normal, iPhone, look how bad it is, So it's a lot of people go, oh, aren't you scared about the iPhone taking your business? No, it has nothing to do. I can get great images from an iPhone. It's not the Indian. I mean, it's not the Arrow. It's the Indian.
Well, absolutely. What a great, and thank you for sharing that. We're gonna pull that off. And by the way, I just posted in the comments for those of you watching live later. Check out that medical reel of all those different videos that they have shot. Melanie, I'd love for you to talk about and we talked about this earlier, but I'd really like to know more from my audience. How should they come prepared? If let's say there's a physician practice or there's a hospital group that are watching right now, and they're like, you know what, we need to up our game. What's some things that they can start doing now before they reach out to you to say, these are the things we need to think about going into getting a video shot or doing headshots for our team or doing promotional videos?
Right.
What are some things they could do now to start preparing for that?
Well, I think, as John said earlier, having an inspiration, if it's a Pinterest board or whatever you want to do, find things that you like and show it to us so that we'll get an idea of your brand. And we're not an ad agency or marketing agency per se, but we really do take on a lot of that as well. So that's the added benefit of getting us. You get John and his crew, their incredible expertise. You'll get our customer service, and then we try to guide you through, because some people are very nervous about it. It's a monetary investment. They want to make sure that it has a good result, and we understand that. We appreciate budgets, and we try to work with every type of budget.
There's a lot of new and young people in these positions.
Yes,
that
and
Melanie
we're trying to help them grow too.
Melanie helps them look like stars, though. That's what, by picking us. We've helped so many people out that way.
We want them to look. We want these people where sometimes there is a huge company and they'll just get a pretty big project kind of dropped on them, and might be their very first experience with it. So we try to guide them through it, help them with the storyboards, help them with the inspiration. But it's tricky for us. Now, John can do it, but sometimes we'll have a client that comes in and says, I just know I need a new website. I don't know what to do. And so we'll try to guide them through that as well. Again, putting on more of that agency hat. But the best thing you can do is look through files that are already out there, look and see what you like. And then we can definitely recreate anything and usually make it better as well. But then open and honest communication, talk to us about, this is what I can spend right now. This is what I want to get. And we'll try our best to get you as much content as possible within your budget. And then people sometimes do it. Like, I know we had one physician who did it in stages. First, he needed the architecture composites of his office. And then he did headshots and his staff shots. And then later we came out and did the video component and client testimonials. So it took about a few months, but because he was a fairly new physician, but we did it in stages. So that was nice for that project. And he loved the results.
I like the fact that you've had the experience with the client with their testimonials. What any situations where you had a testimonial was like, wow, that was an amazing story that you heard that maybe you didn't even anticipate. You thought, wow, when we capture this, it's going to be great. Anything that comes to mind? I know that's a little bit of a curveball, but I love the fact of those stories.
I was thinking,
we're talking about storytelling.
That's right. Said it.
Yes. Well, we've had that from, are you speaking, Marion, about things that people said about the studio or client testimonials about it?
Well, yeah, two things. I want to hear about what people said about the studio. I want to talk about that. But like when you were working with let's use the physician example, where you talked to their, someone that raised their hand and said, yeah, I'll be glad to be a patient. Anything there that's like, wow, that's an incredible story that you can share?
I love doing that because we had one family that the entire family came to this one physician. And I thought that was, it's a concierge practice. Yep. So we had the mom, the dad, and the two children, and this one physician was able to meet all of their needs. And I thought that was pretty impressive. And they were like singing his praises. So it was more like, even though he was their physician, he became more like a part of their family as well. And I thought it was kind of going back in time where you used to have that relationship with your physician. And that's what I think people still crave to this day. They want to have that. They want to feel important and that they're not just a number in the line. All of the different surgeons that we've done at Ortho Atlanta. One I loved, we went to, the physician was also a team doctor for Bremen High School. So we went to Bremen High School and did the Friday Night Lights video. And that was super special to see him in that situation with all the people on the team, just trusting him. The parents knew that their child had a team doctor on site. So I thought that was special too.
And it goes back to what we initially started this whole conversation around is building trust between the patient or the community and the caregiver in with products and that type of thing. I'd love to hear what the companies say about your studio, because I think this is the reason and by the way, the reason I had you on the show is because of my personal love of your studio, even though I've only been a customer of you a couple times. So it's like, I got to have you on the show. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's like, I cannot recommend anybody else. Like, you're it, But what are some of the things that companies, after they work with you and they're like, wow, this is great?
Well, gosh, like John and I are so funny. If we get a Google review, we're very excited. We'll read it to each other. I'm like, we got a Google review. And it feels good. We love that. We need to ask for more. I'm not so great about asking for them because I don't want to bother anybody or take up their time. But I'm like, sometimes people will say a lot of things. We're like, gosh, would you write that in a Google review? That'd be awesome. So we love that. And gosh, too, even when we're getting a video back, and it's the final video that we're about to give to the client, we get so excited. We feel like it is our child. We're like, oh my God, it looks so beautiful. Look at this, look at that. So I think the fact that he loves what he does this many years into your career is pretty special.
It's so enjoyable.
People see that. They sense it.
Yeah, they do sense it. That's what they say. Yeah, they feel that.
Yeah. I agree that you do that. Let me ask you this question: when afterwards, after these videos have run, or for a while or whatever, what feedback are you getting from your client around the impact of that video on their business or how they're perceived in the marketplace? Any feedback that you guys, after the fact you work with them and move to the next project?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know
they
what?
come back.
Well, the biggest thing
back
is
for
when
more.
we know that, well, maybe the other doctors are jealous of not having one, is that we hear from the doctors that don't have it really bad. When are you coming out? When are you coming out? So that tells,
There you go.
that tells you
they want
that
it.
they want it really bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the ones that we have talked to, they go, my clients know who I am before I meet them. And they're just like, it is such an easy way to break the ice where they're even asking questions of what, my hobbies or whatever I do. And, it's really neat to hear the stories of what clients give them, when you're interviewing them, the clients.
Oh,
Yeah.
We had one who the client had made him a pen. He had surgery on his hand.
Beautiful pen.
And the client made the physician a pen because he could use his hand again. And I like that one was great.
What a great story that is. And
I know.
When again, my audience for the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn Live show. And by the way, if you're watching this show, either the live version or the recording that's either on YouTube or LinkedIn, this is my weekly show that I interview people in my network because I want to share them with my network. That's what the whole objective is here. Most of my audience are healthcare leaders in hospitals and physician practices and home health and post-acute, all those different regions of healthcare from all across the country. This idea of connecting with people is in video and audio or or how people connect now. Let's just face it. If you could give them one piece of advice around how they go about this process, what's the one piece of advice you would give them to say, this is where you start? We talked about that a little bit, but I really love for you to kind of share that with anybody in our audience.
John, do you want me to start? Yeah. What do you think? Well, I think basically, like we said, kind of know what you want. Really do your research and figure out how you want to brand yourself, your company, your practice. Know what you want, and then find a studio. Sometimes I think people do spend a lot on the ad agencies, and sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. It just depends on the person. But find the studio that you can trust. That look at their Google reviews, look at their portfolio, and make sure, because we do see a lot of people coming here that are kind of have spent a lot of money, but they weren't happy. So now they're coming back to either they went to another studio, they weren't happy, and now they're having to spend more money. So you kind of hate that, because then we feel bad even charging them, but we have to. But we feel bad because they want to spend a lot of money. Yeah. So just know what you want, do your research, and find somebody that makes you feel comfortable. And I think that's pretty good advice. Yeah. I mean, can you think of anything to add to that?
No, that's exactly.
You just got to. We do struggle with clients that don't really know what they need or want, and we try to guide them, but you know it best of all.
AI is really working good on storyboards.
Yeah.
So clients should try storyboarding it, and then they could go, well, let's get this filmed.
That's a great point.
This is a great thing to use right here.
Oh, we were at Google last week filming, and they were saying people are scared, is AI going to take over my job? And they were like, well, AI is going to take over your job if you don't learn how to control AI and learn to use it. So that's something that we've done at the studio. Is we do suggest to people, they go and and then once you overcome that blank piece of paper phase and you have something on the AI storyboard, then you can make it more your own.
I love that recommendation. Matter of fact, we have a conversation coming up with the Association of American College of Healthcare Executives Georgia chapter in a few weeks on the ethical use of AI. So that your great point. Michael Young is watching from
Yes.
Sunny San Diego. He put his quote. He made a really key point that you were making. Passion is a driver well after the money becomes incidental. Helping patients and business partners is truly satisfying. He can see that you and you two are both very passionate about what you do, but really
We are.
do love it.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Yay.
Michael runs a biotech consulting company out in San Diego. He's been a guest of the show too, so we've recently talked about his work. Last question for the audience: how can they get in touch with you?
Well, John's going to say contact me.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you tried with me, I'm working and just not looking at a phone.
So we have on our website, we have a contact, just info@haigwoodstudios.com. But I love it when people just reach out directly to me, which is Melanie@haigwoodstudios.com. And then we have, our business line, my cell phone. I give everybody my cell phone. And I say, if I'm not asleep, I'll love to talk to you, because I know sometimes you just don't have time during the day. And so in the evenings, we're always available.
Yeah, she's talking to people at 9 o'clock. Yeah, all about the next day's shoot, or just making people feel better. Melanie's the best part of this business.
There's nothing without John. We have a fabulous crew of people that work in the studio as well. So it's just a great experience.
You tell Marion what we did last week within 24 hours.
Okay, I do have to brag on him. I am his biggest fan. But in 24 hours, we started in Decula, Georgia, sunrise shoot for Publix, and then filming at Google for their Southeast Economic Conference, and then a local attorney. We did headshots for them at their location, and then finished with a photo shoot that's going to be a Vogue magazine for the one in Golden. So I was like, and then I would go home wiped out, and John's still energetic. All I just want to do is go to bed.
It's not that hard to push the button.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you got a great team.
And then this last week was for 2 days, WSB. We did all their broadcasters and employees there. It was just, what was it, 80 people,
Yeah, I saw some of your posts. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The harder we work, the luckier you get.
That's right.
There you go. I saw some of your posts on LinkedIn about the WSB shoot. And that was fantastic. Awesome. And they can also connect with you there. We're out of time. Thank you for being on the show. And by the way, for those of you, we're glad to have you. So glad to have you. Thank you all for watching the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn Live Show. I'm Marion Spears-Carr. Please connect with us here on LinkedIn. If you have questions for John, Melanie, reach out to Melanie, reach out to me. I can get you their contact information. Thank you for being on the show. And we'll end the stream.
Thanks,
have a great day. Yeah.
Bye-bye.